Champions League. For the Liverpool just left. Here, a standard finding a few section. Okay, let's go. For example,
about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
That's all. What was it? Nice. Obviously. My position was bad. I, pass photo.